A couple of things as we go backwards. In our Fox Super 6, Michael Strahan said Miami would beat New England by 10. Miami beat New England by 10, so maybe he's the guy to follow right now. What that also means is that the Patriots are out of the playoffs for the first time in 12 years. They're officially eliminated today. Meanwhile, Howie, you take a look at this Bears team. They've won 2 in a row, seem to right at the ship offensively a little bit here as they just keep handing the ball off like they did today to David Montgomery.
42 times today, ran the ball 42 times. Mitch Trubisky was efficient, 15 for 21, 202 yards. Montgomery's the kind of back that when they drafted him, they thought he was a power back. He was a guy that could extend plays. He's low to the ground, physical, and I think it's the aspect of the game that I think they need to do. It's complementary football. Their defense is really good, and it carried the team for most of the year. They got a little worn down, and it helps the quarterback out, and it certainly did today with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, well, that's a recipe for success right there. If they're going to make any hay, and get a chance to maybe get into the playoffs, you got to run the ball. Run the ball. Don't turn the ball over. Trubisky did have the one pick, but you can get away with that when you got a defense as good as they have. Obviously, Mac and company, that's going to win you some games, especially if you're running the football. It just makes everything so much better. Efficiency. Allen Robinson can get involved now and do his thing. It opens up all the lanes behind that defense, and Trubisky can take advantage of that.
And you see their schedule. They've got Jacksonville next week, then Green Bay week 17. The Packers may not be playing for anything. Yes. If the Bears win both those games and Arizona loses just once in their last 3 as they're playing right now, then Chicago leapfrogs them, and they are in the playoffs.
Good possibility.
I know. Don't write them off just yet. Hey, what about the Seattle team here, Michael? Today, they went into Washington and had to hang on at the end, but this defense is playing so much better than they did early on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, this is the worst pass defense in the league, but at the same time, over the last 4 games, they've given up under 170 yards worth of passing. And to do it, with Haskins, I know they had a backup quarterback, but that doesn't guarantee that somebody's not going to have success against you because they have a backup quarterback. But this, Adams, I mean, this guy, ever since they traded for him, he was the steal in trades. He and Stephon Diggs, I would say, in the NFL this year have been the best deals out there. But that defense is just relentless and just coming after you and just wearing you down. And then whenever you have Russell Wilson as your quarterback, he just seems to find a way to make things happen. And then for the last 2 games, they're going to get Josh Gordon back. It's going to be interesting to see how he integrates into the offense with the other receivers that they have.
It looks like Wilson, they struggle a little bit. You watch these teams, and for all our viewers out there, you pick your team out that you love, and they take off out of the blocks like this. Well, they're always going to flatten off a little bit, maybe drop a little bit, and the good teams figure it out and get back into the flow of winning, which is what Seattle's doing. And going back to Trubisky real quickly, sometimes, I may have said this already today, but sometimes you take a young quarterback like Mitch and you sit him down and he knows nobody wants him, okay? And he's sitting on that bench and he's handling it like, a class human being should. And then he gets another shot. And they may say, well, it's not quite the defenses that Foles was playing against. I don't care. It's the NFL, my friend. And the way he is playing now, Howie, you got to think that if they finish out strong, especially if they can beat Green Bay and he plays well, they're going to say,
it's going to be interesting.
The one thing he did today, though, I did notice, whenever he decided to run, he was decisive. Yeah. He didn't sit back and was indecisive about anything. Very decisive in his decisions.
All right, so Chicago's still trying to get in as a wild card. Let's not lose the fact that Washington could still win the NFC East. Right now, the Giants play later on tonight. Philadelphia is still behind them. Dallas is still behind them. So they can still control their own destiny as we speak at this moment. And Alex Smith expected to be back next week. Who would have thought that, right? The NFC East will be fun right down to the finish. Let's talk about this Buccaneers team right now. Let's move back that way here. Michael, they've been up and down all season.
Yeah.
This game was really their season, maybe in microcosm.
Well, we talked about it after the first half. So their sense of urgency just wasn't there in the first half. And Tom Brady threw 45 passes, 390 yards. That's why we didn't get to interview with him after the game. He had to go in and ice his shoulder. The man's about 75 years old, TB. He's got to be sore after this. But, when you got to have the field general like Tom, he was upset that he was off. No one's going to be harder on themselves than Tom Brady is. And for him to come out in the second half, deliver the strike that he needed to deliver, and this is beautiful. This pass to Antonio Brown, couldn't have been more on the money. And, you know, if these guys can learn to click, as you see the Devin White, he said, we have to play the same way the whole game. We're not going to be able to do this against good teams. But they can't talk about that. They have to really, really make that happen, because right now, if they were to play some of these teams we see in the playoff and they got down like this, they'd never be able to come back. Thank you, guys.
All right.
You're so engaged.
I agree with you.
Well, okay,
So
well,
engaged.
we're 0 for 2. They didn't respond to my East thing. They didn't respond to your
okay,
South
Kurt.
thing.
We can-
You want to talk about the
He
AFC
summed
in
it up.
Baltimore?
Pretty good.
No, I
Go ahead.
finish up with Tampa Bay. One thing I noticed in all those highlights, you don't see Gronk in the numbers here. Gronk as a run blocker and as a pass protection guy. And this kid White, for an interior linebacker to have that kind of presence as a pass rusher, and it's not just today, we've seen it over and over again. Their blitz package is big. And I think getting Antonio Brown involved today was huge too. It's like they have an embarrassment of riches in terms of receivers. They need to figure it out. Starting slow, we talked about it in the pregame. Again and again and again, it's the same story. And fortunately, they have a guy at quarterback who's poised and he has the right mindset. He has, Michael mentioned, he threw the ball 45 times. No interceptions. That's another big key. So,
He's got weapons, Howie.
Yeah, he's got a ton of weapons.
Yeah.
But you talked about it, the paint analogy, so beautifully told by
Thank you so much.
That when it
Keep stirring that paint.
You keep stirring, and it does come together because you got the talent there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those teams, like you said, though, if they can have it all come together, we've been saying this since the beginning. If this is a danger. This
They could
still
beat
could be
anybody.
a Super Bowl football team.
Yeah, they have
no matter what.
exactly,
Still.
and not just put it together one game. Right now, it needs to be together now.
Yeah.
It needs to be together for the finish of this season. They have got to be right on page, point on, because as you said, they go up to Green Bay and get behind.
One and done.
And it
Maybe.
sounds like, based on that interview, they understand. We're starting slow. We can't do this. It's the same story every week. And they've got to get it figured out. And as you mentioned, they're running out of road here.
Yeah.
They've got to get it figured out.
With that being said, poor Atlanta.
Oh,
I don't know.
Hey, what
You
does that
jinxed
thing-
them, Kurt.
I know.
you did.
No, what do you got to have them? What's that guy coming in and do to your house?
What?
Saging.
Sage the house?
They got to sage
they
that
get to
stadium.
Sage the
Sage the
stadium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they
Now you
just,
got everybody wondering why Kurt has a
I know.
sage.
They're like, what's Kurt saging his house? Kurt's wife is saging his house. Let's just leave it that way, okay? All right. Start with final thoughts, Michael.
Good luck, everybody. That's my final thought.
Okay.
But, you know, honestly, I want to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers comeback was pretty impressive. And this is the team I really am rooting for. I wanted to see Tom Brady go down to Tampa and play well, and have Gronk leave us to go down there and play well. And, you know, but to the inconsistencies, this is going to be the most interesting team to watch as we get a little deeper into this season. And I want to also say that today, I did say it earlier, I probably went against it, but the Jets are going to get their first win.
Wow, that is so hard.
Oh.
I don't know where you get the
Why
strength to
would they
say
wanna
that. I guess they got a 10-point lead. Is that
Yeah, way to go out on them.
Tony.
I know we're a live television producer, man.
Looking at the Seattle Seahawks, okay, I was excited coming in this week. What they've done the last 3 weeks, they've held teams under 20 points, and they did it again today against Washington. I know Washington was out without Alex Smith and going against Dwayne Haskins, but what they're doing on defense, the way they've stepped up, and then now they're running the ball with Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson. I think Chef Wilson working with those ingredients, DK Metcalf and Tyler and Gordon comes back too. Tyler Lockett and Gordon coming back. I'm telling you right now, watch out for Seattle. They're starting to move up in my rankings of the NFC.
Wow.
And I think they're rounding out into
the earth
playoff
is
form.
shaking,
That's-
Tony.
This
Hold
is
the
hot off
desk.
the press.
Hey, they're 9-1 in the last 2 years on the East Coast, and that starts with the quarterback. But they're asking Chef Wilson to cook a lot less. They're running the ball more effectively, playing defense, and it's that time of the year. Chicago back in it. You know, Mitch has played well. Montgomery's running the ball well, and it could come down to if you're a Chicago Bear fan, a matchup with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers in Week 17 could determine your fate. Now, I don't know. I'm not sure what will be in it for Green Bay at that point, but My gosh, that's a great script.
Oh, yeah, it is. You know, I was actually going to say David Montgomery, who rushed 32 times today for 146 yards. But I'm going to go back to the second TB, Tom Brady. I'm the original. And the fact that what he does at his age, and the fact that if I watch him and people say, define to me a great quarterback in the league, and what's a quality you want? I want a man cool under fire. And that guy is just cool under fire, man. He just stands in there. I mean, most of the great ones are. I even think Matt Ryan's in some way. But Tom is just so cool, calm, collected, and he's done it time and time again. He just comes back and breaks people's heart. You just knew they were going to come back and win the game.
It's amazing.
Kurt told us.
Real quick, I don't want time to pass without mentioning this. The Miami Dolphins had not had a running back run for 100 yards in the game in 2 years.
Wow.
Salvin Ahmed, his grandmother's in the hospital. He said he would get 100 yards for her today.
Wow.
He got 122 yards.
Good for him.
Way to go, Salvin.
Get
That's great.
well.
Exactly.
Get well.
Story,
Get
exactly.
well, young man.
Download the all-new Fox Sports app now.